Good evening, everyone. If you are in our time zone, if you are not in our time zone, good morning, good afternoon, good night, or whatever there is. Greetings from the drama department at the University of Hull. My name is Pavel Drabek. I'm the professor of drama and theatre practice here, and I'm using the microphone not for the people in the room because they might be worried about what is going on. He's got a microphone and it does not come to us. It's only for people online, so that people online can hear. A few announcements before we pass on to our speakers. So first and foremost, what is this? This is a reunion. In 1963, a wonderful thing happened, and here at the University of Hull, drama department was started by Don Roy, and I found in the letters that were sent to the university at the turn of 62 and 63 that this department is not going to be an offshoot of an English department, but it will be a special thing based on continental ensemble practice. And when you join the department, you are joining an operating professional theatre, and you learn on the job. That is the ethos which we have kept over the last 60 plus years. And we have come back here with alumni, graduates, friends and families or from the last 6 decades, just to meet, celebrate, get to see the place after the reunion, and maybe just socialize for a bit. That's what we have been doing. I'm very sorry that some of you could not make it, those who are online, but we've been thinking of you, and we would like to ask you, please get in touch. What has happened since the last reunion in 2013, the 50th, was not only Brexit and other things, but GDPR. That meant that we lost contact with a number of people. So please, please get in touch with me at the university or with the alumni office, because we would like to hear from you, where you are, where your degree and where your career and lives have taken you. So please renew that touch, because our community of graduates is a unique thing. So please get in touch. What we have done over the last 2 days, and we not only met and chatted, but also the graduates met with our current students and recent students and offered some mentoring. We have recorded it, and it's going to go to our students. There are opportunities for e-mentoring. So again, if you're interested in mentoring a student or a recent graduate, please get in touch. We'll set it up through the Student Futures office, and you can help and share your experience or expertise and help a student or a recent graduate. This is streaming on YouTube, and we will share some more information on how to get in touch on YouTube and of course on social media. As part of the event today, and yesterday, we have 3 activities that are collecting memories. One of them is the Gulbenkian Memories Project. So Chris Lilly, who is in the room, myself, hello Chris, following from the initiative of Tom Atkinson, we started putting together a new history of the department, and we would like to hear stories from you, how this department put you on a path and made you into who you are, and how you've benefited from this. This is an important message, not only to our community, but also to future students, to the university, and also outside the sector, to the rest of the world, because drama matters, arts matter, and we want to share that awareness. So we are not just entertainment, we are serious work and fun at the same time. We are also collecting what we call theatre ghosts. So my colleague, Dr. Amy Skinner and Dr. Kat Ferguson-Bohr are collecting audio recordings of memories of this building, of the Gulbenkian Center. If you have a memory of a particular place, please recall yourself, say who you are, how you remember it, and what happened. Okay, we would like to set it up as an audio tour. And finally, we are putting together a career map. Where are you? Okay, so let us know where you are, because we would like to get an idea of all the different diverse careers that our graduates have gone on to do, and also who you remember, how you to reconnect and get back some of the lost time. This is not only for the past, this is also for the present, and of course for the future. So that's about my announcements. I would like to invite to the stage Professor Mike Walton to address you. He said very briefly, but Mike, it's over to you to greet you and of course everyone online. Mike.
It's recorded. I got nobbled by Pavel about 5 minutes ago, and he wants me to speak into a mic. I've always felt that you don't really get to understand this theatre until you realize that if you're sitting under the gallery, there is a voice bar. So I wanted to do it without that, but I have to do that now, apparently, though I feel that I can do it. Still, just. I mean, I'm here because of my age, I'm certainly the oldest person in the room, but I was also here from 1965 when the department was no more than an ancillary course. And three people, Don Roy, Harry Thompson, who many of you will remember with great fondness, and myself were the people who created what would turn into a joint course with other subjects, as many possible in the arts faculty, and with the single honours student course, which developed a little bit after that. So I've been here a long time, and I can take no responsibility for what has happened since. I'm delighted to greet you all here and to tell you that there are three speakers tonight who you really will want to hear. So thank you for coming. It's very nice to see you. I can remember you all if I can't remember your names. I've done what I can. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Mike. This evening will hopefully not last longer than for an hour, because we want to keep it short and sweet. We have asked three of our many illustrious alumni to come and address yourself as well as the wider community online with provocations, thoughts, speeches. So we'll have three short talks. And our first provocateur, speaker is Daniel Swift, who is the CEO of Concrete Youth, a Hull-based theatre company, which is relatively recent. You started in 2019. I'm very proud of this because it started as part of my module on the MA in theatre making. I take no credit for whatever happened. I'm only admiring. And they work with profound and multiple learning disabilities audiences. Beautiful work, and much deserved admiration has gone on to Daniel and Concrete Youth. Dan has been recently named one of the top 30 under 30 in the UK, but most importantly, he's our graduate. So, Dan, please, could you address the world?
Hello, thank you, and the world, hello. Thank you for having me. My name is Daniel Swift. I am a white male with brown hair, wearing a blue and red stripy jumper with blue jeans. I am the CEO and co-artistic director of Concrete Youth. We are a multi-award winning charity based in Hull, but operating internationally. We are dedicated to increasing the cultural provision for people labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities through sensory theatre and education. People with profound and multiple learning disabilities have more than one disability, the most significant of which is a profound learning disability. The term is a description, not a definition, which means there are several qualifying characteristics. One of the most common is a neonatal level of cognitive understanding, which requires levels of high support at all times, as well as sensory impairments, physical disabilities, and complex health needs, such as epilepsy and respiratory problems. As a result, people labelled with PMLD, unfortunately, live life-limiting conditions and have a much lower life expectancy. At any one time, 10% of the general population suffer with mental ill health. For people labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities, this increases to 80%, which is beyond horrific. From this, Concrete Youth offers theatre on a sensory level, which means it is inclusive for our audience who access the world through a sensory lens. Additionally, all of our work is created to be accessible and comfortable. Due to the severe lack of cultural provision, regrettably, in most cases, our audience are experiencing theatre for the very first time. On our last UK tour, 92% of audiences were experiencing our shows for the very first time. Our shows are immersive, enriching, and transformative. They are supported by exceptional casts of actor musicians who immerse our audiences into the story through sensory materials. In our last production of The Whispering Jungle, we explored climate change, which led to the rainforest being burnt down. In that moment, the audience were provided with burnt flowers to feel. The flowers were scented with burning scent oils to align with the story. As our audiences do not use language as a primary means of communication, communicating on a sensory level is the most accessible way of sharing the narrative. In our production of To the Moon and Back, which was performed in a giant inflatable planetarium dome with 360-degree projection, when we landed on Mars, the audiences were provided with red kinetic sand to run through their fingers. There is a great deal more that goes into sensory theatre to make it inclusive for our audience, like magneton integration and intensive interaction. But at the heart is work that stimulates the 33 sensory neurons that work across our 33 sensory systems. I was asked by Pavel to reflect on theatre in the past, theatre now, and theatre as we'd like to see it in the future. The University of Hull's drama department is 60. When it was founded, people with profound and multiple learning disabilities were almost always institutionalized. The phrases, put him away and forget about him, or put her away and have another child, were consistently said to parents of learning disabled children. The accepted term for learning disabled children in the UK was subnormal. It goes without saying that accessible and especially designed theatre for this community of people was not even close to being introduced at this point. Today, recently, the UK government published an article that stated people with profound and multiple learning disabilities are the most invisible within the system. We have not come nearly as close to where we should be at this point. A huge percentage of our yearly marketing and audience development budget is not focused on print campaigns or social media. It's dedicating time to speak at events like this, conferences, networking, to raise awareness and visibility for an audience who are entirely invisible and are also completely unable to advocate for themselves. This is the stage that we're at with this audience. The general population don't even know that this community exists. They and the barriers that they face are totally invisible. In the cultural context for this audience, we are the only organisation in the UK to be exclusively touring to theatre venues for young audiences labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities. This means that they continue to not access sensory theatre that is especially designed for their needs. You will likely be familiar with relaxed performances, BSL integrated performances, audio described and captioned performances. These are excellent steps in the right direction for visually impaired, hearing impaired, and neurodiverse audiences, and there should be more of them. However, these performances are completely inaccessible to people labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities. Due to there being a severe lack of work being made for this audience, my colleagues and I have spent all of our time fighting to be taken seriously, fighting for our audience and sensory theatre as a sector to be taken seriously. The terms, we already have relaxed performances, or we already have enough accessible work in our programme, or we already did a BSL integrated show last year, is incredibly common emails that I receive when booking our tours with venues. Every time a venue turns down our touring work, there are audiences in that area who will not be able to access theatre until we are able to tour near them again, sometimes 1, 2, 3 years plus. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. We're currently developing our new show, Sensory Cinders, with the National Theatre. The show will be the world's first inclusive sensory pantomime for audiences labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities. The show's run is embargoed, so I can't share, but when the run opens later this year, it will make history due to where it is opening. The premiere is projected to reach hundreds of audiences nationally, which is wonderful. However, our audiences deserve a diverse range of work to choose and experience, not just our show. Looking ahead to the future, I simply would hope to see more sensory theatre specifically for audiences labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities. I'm often asked if I would like all shows to be accessible for audiences with PMLD to attend alongside non-disabled audiences. In my view, whilst this would be wonderful, it is simply impractical. It's not feasible to deliver large-scale productions on a sensory theatre level due to the intimacy and proximity that is needed. Shows for audiences who do not have PMLD do not run with our audience capacities of 6. Not to mention the physical barriers to some of the spaces in which our other productions are performed in. Additionally, our audiences do not use language as a primary means of communication, meaning that your standard Shakespeare play or kitchen sink drama script will not be accessible to them. There are many other reasons which I won't bore you with now, but there is a world in which your standard program for non-disabled audiences can run successfully alongside a substantial, accessible, and sensory theatre program for our audience, meaning that truly everybody can enjoy theatre in a way that is accessible to them. Our audiences aren't asking to radically change the entire industry. They just want to look through a season brochure for their local theatre with their carer and see something that is accessible for them. Currently, we are miles away from being there. A significant part of Concrete Youth's mission, in addition to supporting our audiences through our program, is also dedicated to supporting sensory artists in making work specifically for audiences labelled with PMLD. So, long-term, new, enriching, and diverse work is being made for our audience to increase widespread access on a widespread level. We need more sensory theatre companies, we need more sensory artists, and we need more venues and arts organisations presenting and programming more work for audiences labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities. If you run an arts organisation, if you're an artist, if you work at a venue, please look into our audience and explore ways in which you can provide a sensory offer in your work. I promise you there is nothing like seeing such an invisible audience finally accessing work that is inclusive to them. It is beyond magical. As an example, when our casts are on tour, I receive dozens and dozens of emails each day from parents and carers who bring their children to our shows and are completely overwhelmed by finally being able to visit the theatre together. Just as an example, this is a short excerpt of an email I received during our last tour. To protect the child's identity, I have changed his name to James. I cannot stop crying from the magical experience me and James had today. For the very first time in our lives, nobody pointed, nobody laughed, nobody stared, nobody asked me to keep him quiet. He could just be. The actors were so kind and gentle and caring of James and his needs. The show couldn't have been more perfect for him and how he operates. Everything was perfect. So much care and attention to detail has clearly gone into this, and I genuinely cannot thank you enough. Until now, the only form of entertainment out of the house I could give James would be pushing his wheelchair to the park and back. Nothing else is accessible to him. Finally, someone sees him in the way I do, and I cannot stop crying. We will be at all Concrete Youth shows for as long as you are touring. Thank you to you and everybody there today for giving me and James the best experience of our lives. If you are not able to pursue sensory work for our audience at this time, at least please look into and educate yourself on people labelled with profound and multiple learning disabilities and help take a step towards a more inclusive world. I'd like to end with a congratulations to the drama department here. I studied my master's degree here in 2018 and 2019. It was here that I started Concrete Youth, and with the support of the team and the skills I developed here, Concrete Youth is making groundbreaking and historic work internationally. Additionally, because apparently I love to give myself the occasional breakdown, I'm also doing a PhD at Rose Bruford and the University of East London, which I'd never be doing if it were not for my time here. The team are truly exceptional and supportive of the students and the alumni's individual needs and ongoing careers. Thank you so much for listening. I really hope you take something away from this. I'll be around for a while, so please do say hello, or if you're watching from the live stream, hello, please do get in touch. Additionally, there are lots of information about sensory theatre, our audience, and our shows on our website, which is concreteyouth.co.uk. And also, please follow us on social media, because I'll always take the opportunity for a cheeky plug. Thank you again for your time, and congratulations again to the department.
Thank you very much, Dan. We are having a switch over of microphones to our next speaker. Thank you very much, Dan. I've always admired Concrete Youth and the work that you do. I'm really glad that you could meet us and come and join us today to address the community, because there is a lot to be proud of. Our next speaker doesn't need much introduction because she's been a public speaker, a public figure for a substantial time. Rosie Millard OBE has been an artist columnist for the BBC. She's been doing incredible work as the chair of BBC Children in Need, as the chair for the First Sight Gallery in Colchester, and vice chair for Opera North. Also in 2017 for the truly watershed moment for Hull. She was the chair of the UK City of Culture. And those of you who have not been to Hull since 2017 and seen what happened to not only the university, but to the city centre, to the marina, you should go, because it is no longer dull in Hull, as they say. And this is the first and last time I'm going to use that. Rosie is a great patron of the department. She's very vocal about being our graduate and the graduate of English. Is it right? And I'm intentionally mentioning English now because, of course, arts and humanities are under threat again. Okay, we've asked Rosie if she could address the meeting and our online community with a talk, a provocation. Rosie, if your microphone is ready and you are ready for the provocation, our next provocateur, Rosie Millard, OBE.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, Pavel said to me, oh, well, I want you to come and talk about Hull, what it's meant for you, what it's meant to your career, how it's impacted on your life. And I thought, okay, well, you know, considering the first class that we've all had here at Hull University Drama Department, where we are told in very serious terms that drama is like theatre is like an onion. We unpeel it, oh, you see. You unpeel it, you go past all, you know, the costume, the set. What are you left with? What is the kernel that you're left with? Tony Meach sitting here knows, Mike Walton knows. You are left with the audience, that's you guys, and the performer or the speaker, that's me. And I thought, well, these guys don't really want to hear this. Anyway, Pavel's done a great job of explaining what I've been up to. But he did say you could do a provocation. So I thought, all right, I'll put on a huddle. I'll put on a huddle right here. For those of you who can't remember what a huddle is, I shall tell you it's a Hull University Drama Department lunchtime entertainment, which in my time, which was 1984 to 87, you had a budget of a £5 and it lasted for 40 minutes. So I thought, okay, I'll do this huddle. What shall I do? I shall start. I also knew that James Graham was speaking after me, which was just like a nightmare. Yeah, because I've done this before. I've done this sort of gig before with James speaking after me, and he was completely, you know, he's obviously a playwright. You know. So I thought, well, what is the most famous stage direction in 20th century drama? And of course it is a country road with a tree, evening. Now, hands up, who can tell me where that is from? Of course, it's from When Did You Last See Your Trousers? No, of course, it's from Waiting for Godot. And don't worry, do not worry. I'm not about to stage Waiting for Godot here in my huddle form in 40 minutes. I will relieve you of that worry. But turning up in Hull in 1984 was a bit like turning up in the sort of middle of an absurdist drama. It was a bit like sort of something out of Waiting for Godot, because Hull was weird, and it was really isolated, and it was completely unknown. I mean, obviously, not to people from Hull, and Hull has a wonderful legacy and a wonderful history, which we hoped to highlight in the City of Culture year, and did, and it's terrific, but it was still completely unknown, and to everyone here, apart from Daniel, who was here before 2016, no one knew where Hull was because it wasn't on the television weather map. And Hull got onto the TV weather map thanks to Tony Hall. The City of Culture asked him, and he put it on the BBC weather map. Then it went on the ITV weather map, and then it went on Channel 4, and then it went on Channel 5. Where is Manchester? Nowhere. Where is Leeds? Nowhere. Doughty Hull. And it means we all know where Hull is. But when we were at Hull, no one knew where the hell it was, and that was a huge advantage, because you turned up, okay, it was Beckettian or whatever, but you turned up, and it was like a tabula rasa. You didn't have a sort of legacy of like, oh, you're going there, or sort of the history of this place or whatever. You could make of it what you wished, because it was an unknown place, particularly if you came south of the Gap, as I did. Completely unknown. So you could do what you want. It was incredibly liberating. So that was the first thing. The second thing was, as people have said here all week, and people often say to me, you know, this is a unique department because it's built around a theatre. So everything focused on the theatre. All the tutorial groups focused on the theatre. The costume up there, the workshop in there. We were all connected and looked at and focused on this one place. And to have 3 years just thinking, I mean, okay, all the other students hated us. Yeah, they all thought we were just ghastly. But we didn't care because we had the theatre. So that was really important. And the third thing, which was critical, which actually Mike Walton referred to, where are you, Mike? There, in your book for our last reunion, Huddled Together, is that being a department was a communal activity. It was a collegiate activity. We had to turn up on time. I mean, some people over breakfast this morning were talking about how in acting you've got to turn up on time. Sorry, I was ear-breaking your conversation. and you have to turn up on time, and you have to turn up to rehearsals, and you have to be there, and you have to be responsible for other people, because their success is your success, and your success is their success. It's a communal activity. And that is a really critical lesson for you, for the outside world, because unless you're going to be a hermit or a novelist, you have to work with other people, and you have to connect with other people, and that's the only way you're going to make it. So it's obscure, it was far away, it was focused, it was communal, and the other brilliant thing that being in Hull taught you was the ability to extemporize. And so, yeah, which is very, very useful if you're going to be a TV reporter, because if you're asked to sort of waffle away on the red carpet of the Oscars, or you're asked to just fill in time because someone else isn't ready, or you're asked to speak at the drop of a hat, you can do that because you've been here in Hull. So I would like some volunteers now for my huddle, which we're going to put on right here. Mr. Noble, come on. Rose, yeah, brilliant. Tim, come. I need a couple of other people. I need someone else to play a student. Come on, who? Otherwise, I'm just going to have to pick. Come, marvelous. And then the other thing I need, I'm afraid, actually, it was someone here earlier who was speaking really well, who didn't feel he needed a microphone. So I think I must bring Mike Walton out to the... Right, I've got scripts. I know, this is embarrassing in front of James Graham. It's just, it's very embarrassing. Right, this... This is my huddle. My huddle is called Huddle, a Drama in 3 Years. Cast. Okay, a Southern first-year student. That's you. A Northern first-year student. That is you. A cricketing a cricketing first-year student, I think that has to be you. A third-year student, that must be Mr. Lambert, and an academic. There you go.
Thank you.
I shall read the scenery. Come on, all around here, right? And speak. Amazing, yeah. This is all your fault. You said a provocation, so okay. So, a windowless room in a large octagonal building, decorated with pinboards, cast lists, and a picture of Keir Starmer. Pattering on the roof indicates it's raining. Enter 3 first-year students, nervously.
Gosh, it really is rather grim up north. I'm freezing. Is there any underfloor heating? Is it always like this?
You Southerners have no idea. That's why coming to Hull is so good for you. Thank God for the Gulbenkian. Drama is about the only course at the university which welcomes people south of Stansted Airport.
If only I'd been born here, I could have played cricket for Yorkshire. Or are we in Humberside or the East Riding? What's this room anyway? I say, looking at...
Yeah.
Good man. Can you tell me where we are?
This is the huddle room,
No.
where you will put on 40-minute plays at lunchtime for a budget of 5p. Here you will learn that drama, like an onion, can be peeled in a number of ways and will still bring tears to the eyes. You'll all use this room in ways predictable and unpredictable, and it will be your honing ground, your laboratory, your testing zone. Here you will have the right to fail. Some of you will stage agitprop. Some of you will put on earnest pieces of drama. Others will stage entertaining talks with theatrical giants. I remember Donald Sindon visiting this room once.
Really?
Sindon, that's old Am. I didn't come to Hull for that sort of tripe. I came to Hull to understand the urgent political frost behind all great drama.
I came to put the show right on here, and with any luck, bring a bit of glamour, James Bond, and cars and motorcycles driving onto the stage.
Third-year student enters dramatically.
Can I just say that Hull is the perfect place for me to hone my commedia dell'arte skills, play multiple men of the clergy, and co-found the GAFTA Awards, a prize for which there is no comparison in the outside world. In adulthood, I will perform in front of the Prince of Wales, Duke of Edinburgh, and numerous other pubs in London. But that must wait. First, I must astonish the Gulbenkian audience by my burgeoning thespian talents, get completely hammered at the welly, lose my phone in spiders, and of course waste all my money with Z Theatre Company at the Edinburgh Festival.
That sounds a great idea. Can we hitchhike up there, stay in a windowless basement, and live on nothing but cling peaches for a fortnight, while acting in a show written by the future writer of The Crown?
Loud banging on the door. Academic re-enters.
I don't want to seem hasty, but it's time for my next tutor group. I'm packing them in for Greek tragedy. The architecture of the globe, heroic acting, French farce, a special course on the films of Anthony Minghella, analysis of the work of Spy Monkey, and a textual focus on the plays by James Graham. We are by far the most popular department in the university, you know. I don't know how we manage.
He hurries off, handing a piece of paper to Southern first-year student.
Oh God, this is the stuff for the forthcoming VAT course. I had to make 50 costumes for a Sheridan farce out of Hessian and old J-cloths. It's going to be performed this Sunday on the shores of the Humber estuary. Why is this place so ludicrously ambitious?
Because we have to aim high here. I think one should liken playing the Galb to playing at Lord's.
That, of course, is the point of the department. For 60 years, students here have been grappling with the pinnacles of world theatre, being given a chance to extemporize, to range from showbiz to Shakespeare, with a good slug of Brecht in between. Here we have learned to work together, to applaud, or to leave the auditorium silently. We've had the opportunity to lose it all, make it all, and feel loved and supported throughout. Pity, fear, risk, and a dash of fade-do. That is the formula. The rest of the university will envy the confidence, daring, and brio that is the hallmark of Hull drama students. Then you'll graduate. You'll go out into the world. You will use all you've learned at Hull and be creative. And you will succeed. Yes, you will.
Exeunt to the student union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a round of applause for the actors. Now one more round of applause for Rosie. Thank you very much, Rosie. We'll have a handover of the microphone to our third speaker. Rosie, you've already said who's going to be that. James Graham, OBE, and Dr. Honoris Causa of the University of Hull. Needs very little introduction. Probably the most prolific playwright who's not only writing but also being staged. Also being turned into TV shows. How many musicals is it? Several. Dozens of plays, but also, very importantly, a kind and a generous person who's a great friend of the department, who's been here a number of times to talk to students, to talk to our community. And I'm incredibly pleased that James Graham is here with us tonight to address you.
Thank you. Thank you. I managed to go here. Is that okay? Hey everyone, am I lit? Can you hear me? Good, thank you. I'm going to need this, I'm afraid. It's not as good a position, but I wrote notes. Oh gosh, I remember this feeling, standing in front of your fellow students and your peers, in front of your lecturers, feeling like you haven't quite done the reading, following on from someone who clearly did more work than you. But it really is, obviously it is a huge, genuine honor to be invited to speak here at the Diamond Jubilee anniversary. I graduated in 2003. That was the department's 40th anniversary. Like many of you, I was here 10 years ago in 2013 for the department's 50th anniversary. And here we are a decade later for the 60th anniversary. And that is getting quite hard to believe. I don't want to make any of the young undergrads or postgraduates here miserable, but it really does fly by. I say that as someone who has always found time passing quite sort of difficult to get my head around. And I've always found that things that challenge me or give me anxieties or weariness, I've always just found that actually it's always been art, it's always been storytelling, it's always been poetry or language that's helped me make sense of those anxieties. So I went back to, like you, Rosie, I went back to Beckett, who has his own existential shit to do with time. And I think one of the first times I ever stood almost in this spot as a young actor, writer, director, was being directed by Mike Walton. in a Beckett piece called Catastrophe. And I don't know if you know that one, but it is essentially just 3 actors, a director, a director character, an assistant director character, and then the protagonist, who's just a model who just stands on a plinth and has to be manipulated by the director. And all I had to do, really, was just stand still and be moved by the cast. I think it was probably some metaphor for fascism or manipulation or Beckett's anxiety about his own exposure as an artist in front of an audience. My problem was, I don't know if you remember, Mike, but I just couldn't stop smiling. I just kept corpsing. And the problem was, I always found as an actor, which is why I think I became a writer, is that I don't know if you associate with this, I just simply enjoyed it all too much. It all just made me smile. And I will always be so grateful for that and for working with you. That was a huge treat, Mike. So thinking of time, Beckett's quote was, it's quite hard to see here, actually, so I might move into the light. Do you know what? I'm actually going to leave my notes. Forget that. I'm just going to blog it, because it's quite hard to see. Apologies. So Beckett had a quote about time. It is that double-headed monster of damnation and salvation. And I really feel that about anniversaries. I feel like we are damned to remember how far we have come since those idealistic days when we were full of hope and we learned the lessons and the principles and the values that we were taught in this place. But I also really feel like this is also a time to check in on that stuff and remember those original founding principles and remember the things that excited you, remembering the first time I thought maybe I could be a playwright and a writer. And to Pavel's provocations to provoke and interrogate some of the assumptions I've learned over the years and to question whether they need challenging or not. So that's why I see this as an opportunity today. One second, I wanted one thing. I went back and read Huddled Together, like you did, Rosie, to remember some of the special memories that I had there. And I remember actually, excuse me, this is like the worst seminar I've ever given. Forgive me. Talking much of stuff. Yes. I'd have to blag this bit as well. Essentially, I went back to see all the things I ever wrote about Hull in my plays to see how my feelings towards the city and towards the department have grown since then. And the first time I think I wrote about Hull was a play I wrote called Tory Boys in 2008, which was for the National Youth Theatre. It was my first ever paid commission for a piece of writing ever. And I forgot entirely that I put a character in there who went to Hull University, and the character asked him, where the hell is Hull? And the line I'm paraphrasing is essentially, Hull is at the end of the M62, and once you pass Pontefract, if all the cars have left, it means essentially everybody there is going to Hull, unless they're intending to drive into the North Sea. Which, to be fair, when people see Hull, a lot of people actually do. That was a line I wrote, and I was quite surprised by that, because that is now not my memory of this city. I had the real honor of appearing on Desert Island Discs a few weeks ago, which was very surreal and strange, and I'm not the first Hull graduate who got to be able to do that. And I was sat there talking about my life, and the presenter said to me, you wouldn't said, James, that Hull made you. And I don't remember saying that, but but the more I thought about it, you think about where you grow up, you think about where you're born, you think about where you had your first job, where you had your first play on. But the more I interrogated, the more I realized that, my God, yeah, actually, so much of my being was formed not just in this city, but in this building, and not just in this building, but this space here. My first ever piece of writing, ever, I think it was actually in the studio, the Anthony Minghella studio, a very, very short 10-minute comedy that I basically tried to rhyme badly. And then I wrote my first full-length play, which first got its preview here on the Donna Roy stage in 2002, which we took to the Edinburgh Festival. And even just walking into the Gulbenkian foyer now, as I'm sure you all did, and seeing all those posters from what we used to call main houses, and I remember that first feeling in 2000 when I first saw all the posters leading up to my play. And then coming back now and seeing all the posters that have led away from them. And the humility and the pride that you get in realizing that you're part of this continuum of work and this community that feels, even though I don't know most of you, there's that feeling of when you're part of a community leaving this university, that you carry something with you. I think it's an ethos, I think it's values, I think it's lessons. I think it's character building. And I can only assume that came from, at the time, what felt like the most perfect balance to me of theory and practice. You go and read sometimes in the library, not always, and you go to your seminars and your lectures, but then you get given this incredible playground here in the form of the Gulbenkian Theatre, which I think is unmatched almost anywhere in the United Kingdom. And you get trusted to create and take risks and make your own work in the safety. Gosh, I wish I had that safety now. When the Guardian, the Times, and the Financial Times come to see my show, is the safety of making work with your peers. And as Rosie said, realizing that the collective experience of making work is what makes it so special. And it humbles you to this day to realize you're one part of a machine. And beyond that, I think there's something about Hull which, if you manage to find yourself being here in the first instance, that means you already have a, I mean this politely to the city, you have a sense of the underdog about you, that you don't need those Gothic spires to give you a sense of value. And I think I've taken those lessons with me as well, and I've really valued that. I'm so lucky to be a playwright and a writer. And I remember the first time I met Anthony Minghella as someone who came to visit me when I was an undergraduate in Hull in 2002. And I think he was just about to, he'd just won his Oscar, or he'd just been nominated for his second Oscar. And I could tell even with him, 20 years on, when he was in the Hollywood system, he was in the Hollywood machine, and he frankly didn't need to be speaking to some spotty undergrads who didn't know what they wanted to do with their lives. That humility and that sense of kindness and wanting to send the ladder back down is also something that's long stuck with me. It was so inspiring to listen to Dan and your passion when it comes to access, and remembering that most people just don't even consider or have the ability to access the arts and creativity. I've always kept that with me. And it's astonishing to me when I speak to my peers or I meet other people who've been to Hull University Drama Department in all walks of life, the amount of different disciplines that people assume and absorb. I think my friend David Brinley is here. We lived together on Ride Street. I don't know where you were all from. We were at Ride Street. He's now an Emmy Award-winning producer of documentaries and factual entertainment. We were talking earlier, and we worked out that in our cohort, in our year that graduated in 2003, I think we have a playwright, a TV producer, we have a comedian, we have 2 actors agents who are representing some of the most exciting talent that's coming out today. We have a CEO of an entertainment company who's building the largest arena in the United Kingdom for live music. And we have a magician. And all of those have incredible value, but it just reminds me, with the deputy head of the Today program, that's another one. And so on and so on, film, TV, theatre, creative, administrative, marketing, acting. I don't think there's a different department that would have produced those different talents and disciplines. And having met some of you briefly before we came here today, even just seeing all of your different passions, all of your different skills, confirms that to me, that there's something about welcoming in people to this department that had a passion, a general passion for all things creative, performance, art, storytelling, and then allowing you the time to find your specialism or your true calling or the thing that just got your heart beating and got it so excited and got you up in the morning. I think that rhythm was perfect for me, and I say this with absolute certainty. Had I not had that time in that space to try acting with Mike Walton, and to putting my first lighting rig up there, and to going into what was the radio studio to do my first radio journalism package, and eventually alighting upon playwriting and screenwriting as something that just made me so happy and gave me such value and joy. Without that time to do that, there's no question any other university I would not be a playwright and screenwriter today, and I'm so ridiculously grateful for that. And it's so nice to hear continually how different people applied the skills and the lesson they did to different jobs here. But I'm worried, as I'm sure a lot of you are as well, and again, to what Pavel has been saying about this being a different academic climate. It's what Dan said about the challenges of everyone accessing theatre, and Rosie to be reminded of the whole City of Culture and the impact that had on this city. I'm obsessed at the moment with popular theatre for the widest audience that you could possibly achieve. And I'm not saying I'm ever going to succeed in that, but I've been very lucky recently. I did a play in the West End at the National Theatre recently called Dear England, which is about the English football team and how a seeming historic problem with getting that ball in the back of the net in a penalty shootout, and how Gareth Southgate took his team on a psychological, introspective journey to interrogate what that was. And thankfully, we managed to reach a new audience for theatre, and I was very grateful for that. I can't take full responsibility for that, even though that was the mission. We managed to reach 200,000 people so far in the National in the West End, and we know that about 10% of those people were people who'd never come and seen a play before. I think those values and those lessons, that passion, that mission is something I got from this building, from Hull, and certainly from the City of Culture as that mission. But it's very, the climate for making plays and for making art and for making entertainment in this country is not in a happy place, as I think we all know. Not just the funding cuts in theatre and the arts, not just the challenging educational environment, even in things that you would think are a slam dunk financially, including television, Netflix, streaming platforms. The funding for that is getting less and less and less and less. Co-productions have completely collapsed. And me and my colleagues, my writing colleagues, are struggling in what should feel like a golden age of television and entertainment to get work away in the way that we would have done 5, 6, 7 years ago. And you wonder why that is, because what's really frustrating about this is that there's never been a greater appetite for art, story, and entertaining, not just as distraction, not just as entertainment, but as a way of making sense of the very, very crazy world out there and the social divisions that we all know exist and the political chaos that we're all witnessing. It's incredible that the financial models that have been built to tell these stories aren't giving us the opportunities that they used to reach a wide audience. And I was thinking specifically educational terms, and Pavel alluded towards this. Obviously, we all know that arts degrees are being restricted in their funding now, and the access funds for students is being frozen, and we've all been there. Like, I remember reading in Huddled Together, Mike, you faced this first, I think, in 1981, when the Thatcher government first decided to question what the value of a drama or an arts degree was and whether we should close them. And it's that cycle of every time you think you've won the argument, a few years later, either a different administration or a different climate comes along, and we all have to feel like we have to start beginning to make that argument again. And it's exhausting. I'm working in Nottingham at the moment. I'm doing a play at the Nottingham Playhouse called Punch, which there are still tickets available online if you happen to be passing through. And that is it's a real life story about someone who grew up in a council estate in Nottingham, not far from where I grew up. He got involved in violence. He accidentally killed somebody on a night out in Nottingham with the one punch phenomenon. Didn't mean to, but this person died. He went into the criminal justice system. Came out a couple of years later, and luckily for him, he got involved in something called rehabilitative justice, which meant that he could go on a positive journey with his victim's family and get out of the criminal justice system, to the point in which the victim's family eventually gave him a reference to go to university and get a degree, even though this was the person who had killed their son. He got a degree, became a criminologist, and now he works with youth offenders across Nottingham, including with drama therapy and arts engagement as well. So hopefully, it's a really positive story. We're doing that at the Nottingham Playhouse, which just had its funding entirely cut 100% from the local council. And in fact, Nottingham, like Birmingham, and I think one other, are the first three, but not the last, to have the entirety of their local arts funding cut from the local authority. And so, as often happens, I get wheeled out onto BBC Radio Nottingham to go, but the arts matter and we should invest in them. And I think I was on a Radio 4 program called the Westminster Hour with some politicians. And I did my usual spiel using the language that I'd learned from the whole City of Culture, which included, of course, we hear those arguments. Of course, social care needs funding. And I'm not saying we should take away from care beds to make plays, but it is short-term thinking that means that you de-invest all the things that make a city investable in the first place, that gives you self-esteem, that gives you value to live in a place. The multiplier effect of how if you come and see a play, you get a taxi, you get a hotel, you go and get a drink in a bar, and you buy a meal, and all that stuff. But ultimately, I find myself struggling to make that argument in that case. And actually I think it was a Labour politician, in fact, said, I hear all that, James, and we hear that all the time. We know arts have value, but it all just sounds really fuzzy, really, really light, really soft. Can you give us some firm evidence that's empirical, measurable, based on statistics, of how investment in the dark times in arts, when you don't have any money, can lead to long-term benefits for your community? And I just really struggled to find the language on the spot. And it made me think of the incredible, forgive me because it's in my notes and I can't read them, the department that you have here that measured the value of the whole City of Culture, Creativity, Place and Policy Unit, something. It's part of your research department and it's very good. For the first time ever, they could draw lines between this amount of money was invested in culture in Hull and this is the social, cultural impact. Things that are actually quite hard to measure. Obviously, we can measure how much money Siemens brought into the city because they felt good about the fact that Hull was doing arts. But they also tried to measure things like pride and self-esteem and confidence in young people. So it is possible to find metrics and to find language that can explain to people in the dark times the value of arts and hopefully of arts education as well. Because we will all suffer it, you will have all suffered it, when you tell people you're doing a drama degree and they go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a nice soft subject, Mickey Mouse, what time do you get up, what time do you go to bed? But we know intrinsically, everybody in this room, the value of and the skills and the strength and the knowledge that came from that we can apply to things that maybe aren't even necessarily directly involved or linked to the arts or performance. That could be a teacher, that could be a lecturer, that could be, I know someone who's a policeman and still uses those skills that they got from this room. So one of my provocations is just how any of us can use the research and the expertise and the resources of any drama department, any university, to finally, once and for all, somehow alight upon clear arguments and cases that are measurable and based in science in these dark times, so that when Nottingham City Council is arguing with me that they have to cut the arts, where I can pull from that makes it not sound soft, that doesn't sound woolly, that doesn't sound made up, that is actually based in empirical evidence, and can get a normal person in a pub to understand, yes, I know it doesn't make sense when the lights are going out to spend money on arts, but the value long-term and in indirect ways to your community and to your self-esteem and to your pride is worthwhile. So I feel a responsibility to try harder and try better at that, and to work with academia, to work with your departments, to work with the incredible research structures in this university, to be louder, to be stronger in that regard. Because I'm also obsessed at the moment, and I've only got 5 minutes left, so don't worry, we can have a drink then. I'm also obsessed at the moment with place, which was a key factor of the whole City of Culture. Like, how does a place grow, not just with tram lines and changing the slabs in the city square, but how can it grow with stories and music and art? And I found myself in a room recently with the people in the Labour policy unit looking at levelling up and how they can combine that with arts as well. Because as much as I'm all for levelling up, I feel like nowhere in that argument do they talk about the power of creativity in the arts. They always talk about transport, they always talk about jobs. I'm very lucky that in Ashfield, which is where I grew up, they have been given £2 million of levelling up funding for some sort of artistic cultural heritage thing. And what they alighted upon was an observatory to stick up on top of a hill. And that'd be great. People will go there once every couple of years to look at an observatory, and it's fine and brilliant. I just think, for me, the value of art to the community, much like the City of Culture, is that it forces you to look inwards in yourself and be introspective and look at your identity and all the things that you're struggling with. And the Conservative government have given us an instrument to look just about as far away from ourselves as you possibly can. And I'm sure that that's not an accident. So I just wish when I find myself in those opportunities, I wish I was better. I wish I was better in explaining what I think the value of getting people together collectively in a space, in a room, live music, poetry, art, storytelling, and measuring that value and expressing it and finding the means of that expression. So I think academia and alumni should and could do better with that. Finally, I also just wanted to say that I know teaching always changes, and the demands and the passions and the wants of students always changes. I remember the real value to my year and my cohort in coming to this place was we couldn't believe, not just in terms of resources and funding, but the encouragement we were to make theatre and work that I would say was pretty close as damn it to a commercial level production that wouldn't have always looked out of place in a regional theatre or in the West End. And I think there are problems to that as well. There are problems if all of your attention, all of your time is always on these main house shows where you're building sets and making costumes and they run for a few days and then you take them down again and they're very expensive. But I know that the lessons I learned from imitating the structures of putting on a professional show, taking those shows to Edinburgh, my first play we took on a professional tour around the United Kingdom. I worry that I wouldn't have had the confidence or the skills to go into a professional theatre today without that level of investment and without that encouragement and even pressure to leave your books behind and go and make professional level work in this space. And it sounds like the priorities have slightly changed in this department, and possibly rightly so. You do lots of little things rather than a few big things. And that may be correct. I just want to, in the spirit of provocation, sometimes wonder whether denying students the ability to go big sometimes limits some of those lessons that we, I think, a lot of people in an older generation got to learn. I don't know. It's an impossible climate to get that money in because the funding is being squeezed. So another provocation is how we all, as alumni, can support this department in finding that funding to keep it going. And I wrestle with that myself all the time as well. And what my obligation as someone who has benefited in all the ways, creatively, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, what my obligation is to make sure that that ladder and those opportunities keep getting passed down. So I'll be happy to talk about that as well. It's been an absolute pleasure to waffle on with you. Thank you. It's just so great to be back in this room that made me the playwright I am today, and to see all of your faces. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Rosie. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Mike. I would like to close this meeting and indeed this reunion with a few words. Rosie, you mentioned the importance of the communal activity, like belonging together. This is something that is very hard to measure, but the power that is in the aggregate, in the collective interaction, which is crucially what we are doing here in drama, is very difficult to measure. However, one thing that is a fact, that we have an incredibly strong community of graduates, current students, staff, former staff, and of course friends of the department who know that there is important value. One thing that I found out this weekend, and actually it was someone who mentioned it to me, no matter how old these people are, there is a lot of youthfulness. And I was really touched to see someone from the late 60s talking to someone who is a student, and I thought they are equally youthful. And I think that's kind of spirit of liveness, not only about the past, but bringing the past to the present and thinking about what will happen to the future, what awaits us, what are the challenges, what do we need to do in order to make not only theatre, but the society, the world we live in, more comprehensible, more livable, more enjoyable, and more fun. I would like to end by thanking my colleagues who have been wonderful colleagues and who've pulled this event together. So I would like to thank them. I would like to thank our students who have been here, who've done the work. I would like to thank our graduates, both here in this room and those who are watching either live or from the recording. And of course, friends of the department. You've been wonderful. And it was lovely to have you here. The next reunion was in 10 years, but please stay in touch, because that connection is out of time and it's really unique. So thank you very much for your attention. Greetings to the online world, and enjoy the rest of the evening. And thank you very much for coming.